Hi guys, Stefan here from the OSL desk in Singapore. I'm a sales trader servicing corporate high net worth individuals and financial institutions in the crypto space. I want to make this video to give you guys an idea of what we at OSL are currently keeping an eye on, what trends we're identifying in the market, and how we think Bitcoin could be developing over the next few days, weeks, months, and so on. We'll be making these videos regularly, so be sure to subscribe to get an update whenever we do upload a new one. The only other thing that I want to say before we start is that this video is, of course, for informational purposes only and should not be construed as investment advice. If you want any more information on OSL and what we do, the products that we give in this industry with regards to software as a service, brokerage, custody, and exchange, follow the links underneath. You'll also find a link to register to the platform and try out our product and even trade cryptocurrencies. All right, let's dive right in. So today we're looking at Bitcoin to start with. Looking at the bull run over the last year almost, or even more so. The first thing that you'll notice here, I've put in the Fibonacci retracement, is how the price has been consolidating just above the 0.5 retracement over the last 7 weeks. We have had some price dips below that into the low 30s, high 20s, but on a weekly close, we've not actually closed below 34.4K, which for me is a very bullish sign, especially when you look at the negative funding rates that we're seeing in the markets and the general kind of reset of leverage positions. Of course, it is possible that prices could drop further. For me, what I'm looking out for, if they do, would be a test of the 27.1K level around about here. And then, of course, the next big support level will be the high of the previous bull run at 20K. Worst case scenario, something that we've seen happen over the last few Bitcoin cycles, is a test of the 200-week moving average. So if we put that into the chart, it looks a little bit like this. So the worst case scenario, prices dropping down to 15, 16K is not impossible. And honestly, when the bull run comes to an end, I think it's highly probable that we will actually retest this line in the future, but not quite yet. If we look at the chart on a one-day time length, let's change that quickly. Bitcoin again starting to look pretty strong, especially over the last few days. We've had like a nice positive building trend over the last few days, or over the last 2 weeks, really starting to build. The main support and resistance levels that I'm currently keeping an eye on, probably the 30 to 32K, which is, as I said, it's one that we've tested multiple times. You'll see that at first, when we moved into this area of support, there was an initial flash, then we spent more time in there. Eventually, we even had 4 or 5 days of trading in this area before we finally came back out. But now every retest is weaker and higher up. There's new higher lows every time, which for me is something very bullish. This also seems to be kind of in line with what the desk has been seeing. For us on the desk here, there's been a lot of opportunistic large selling of Bitcoin in and around 35 to 36K. But at the lower levels, BTC buyer volume is really coming in and crushing the sellers. A lot of accumulation taking place in the low 30s. This is slowly starting to dry up a little bit as prices stop dropping so far, and instead what we're seeing is a lot of USDT or tether buying as people are preparing to buy more for any further eventual dips. To the upside, initial levels of resistance for me on the broader scale are 40 to 42K, which is the top of the trading range that we've been in since May. And above that, I'm also looking at the 49 to 50K area, which was a nice support when Bitcoin was trading above. and will certainly be offering a big resistance level going forward over the next few weeks. One thing I did briefly want to talk about as well, I mentioned it briefly at the beginning, was this moving average, and something that you'll no doubt have heard about over the last few weeks is this kind of death cross that we saw in Bitcoin, and one that's actually coming up in Ethereum, but more on that in a different video. The death cross is when the 50-day moving average crosses the 200-day moving average to the downside. So this is what it looks like, and historically what we've seen, what people tend to really do when they see this is panic, and they go, it shows that the market's crashing, it's gonna correct more. Lots of analysis, or a lot of people saying that prices will correct by 70% more to the downside. But in Bitcoin, when you look at what's happened historically, that's not really always been the case. If you look at where we are now, the death cross happened when Bitcoin was in the mid-30s. We're literally $1,000 below that right now. We did dip 20% below that level, but nowhere near the 70% that was anticipated, and certainly not for a prolonged period of time. The 50-day moving average, as you'll see, is starting to act as a little bit of a ceiling. Prices are getting squeezed in this area right here. Whether we see prices pop to the upside or even correct further, it remains to be seen. Personal view is that we keep going up, especially as people will have been talking about this Wyckoff accumulation taking place. But so far, this picture for me is positive. When it comes to resistance, the last thing I want to talk about is where the next local top is for me, or at least where the next big area of resistance is. I mentioned the 48 to 50K, but something else that I'm keeping my eye on is the trend line that's being built at the top of the graph by the two previous market tops, almost coming on a downward trend, crossing the 48 to 50K support zone, coming down even further. And one thing that seems to happen a lot, especially in the Bitcoin markets, when a correction has taken place and prices start to appreciate again, they tend to gravitate towards the 111-day moving average. And if we put that on the graph right now, you'll see in yellow how close it is to this decreasing trend line. And they're really almost moving in tandem. So as Bitcoin prices start to appreciate, test the 40 and hopefully break through, for me, the next big area of resistance will be in the mid-40s. If we break through, that'll be a very, very bullish sign, but I think we'll correct a little bit. And this right now is a good target to achieve. That's really it from my side today. We'll be back with some more updates in the next few days. Hope it's been useful. Do post any comments, feedback, etc. underneath the video. We'll try and address it all. And in the meantime, may the trend be your friend. Take care.